I talk a lot about supercommuting on this channel. As a supercommuter myself, I understand the struggle of waking up early to travel long distances, work, and then make the same long trip back home again. But there's one supercommute that's caught my attention more than others in Washington state, and it's not one you'd expect unless you know someone who does it. People who commute across mountain passes. There are many reasons why you wouldn't expect this commute to happen. First, Eastern and Western Washington are divided by more than just mountains. They're culturally very different places and each has their own demographics, politics, sports teams, and more. Second, commuting across a mountain pass is difficult. It's a long trip, with the shortest commute across the I-90 pass being around 60 miles. If you commute from Ellensburg to Seattle, it's over 100. Plus, the pass gets a lot of snow in the winter, and driving conditions can be very difficult and dangerous at times. These commutes are more common than you'd expect, in spite of the difficulties. The census reports that nearly 1,500 people commute between Kittitas and King counties, which would involve driving across the Snoqualmie Pass on I-90, which is the biggest pass of the few that exist. So, why would you want to commute across the mountains into a side of the state that you're not supposed to like? Well, there are a few reasons. For one, housing is much cheaper on the east side of the pass. In Seattle, the average two-bedroom apartment rents for around $2,700, while in Ellensburg, that rent is more than halved to just over $1,200. You could also be living with someone who works in eastern Washington while you work on the west side, meaning one of you is guaranteed a long commute regardless. However, despite some of the advantages of living on the far side of the pass, there is no public transit across any of the passes in Washington state, leaving the two halves of the state disconnected when you don't have a car. There are intercity coach bus services across the pass, but they don't serve a lot of the towns and usually require backtracking if you're heading anywhere in between Seattle and Ellensburg. These services also run infrequently and are fairly expensive, with a one-way trip costing at least $20. It's not just commuters either. Lots of people cross the pass to travel to other parts of the state, as it's a major choke point in the transportation network. In Ellensburg, lots of students at Central Washington University come from places in the western part of the state and often travel back across the state for weekends and holidays. The Snoqualmie Pass ski resort in the middle of the pass is also very popular, and nearby hiking and biking trails fill in summer demand. This lack of transit service across the passes is the biggest gap in the state's otherwise impressive rural transit network. It also means there isn't any properly accessible service across the pass, as private operators like Flixbus don't install wheelchair lifts on their buses. One reason this service doesn't exist is because it's so challenging to operate, with massive changes in weather and road conditions. The pass even has to close to vehicle traffic for some days in the winter when there is especially heavy snowfall. So, since local transit service across the pass is so important but so challenging, how do we implement it? First, we want to have good connections to other services. Getting over the pass is one part, but you still have to get from your house to the bus and from your bus to the final destination. On the east side, we could connect to the Kittitas County Connector Bus in Cle Elum, which runs local service in Cle Elum and connects eastwards to Ellensburg. Since this route isn't very frequent, with just 4 to 5 trips a day, we could time our route to connect with each of its trips to and from Ellensburg, and supplement it with extra trips of our own to Ellensburg at the beginning and end of the day. On the west side of the pass, the easternmost city with transit service is North Bend, but it gets fairly poor quality service, with slow local bus service every 1 to 2 hours 6 days a week. Having infrequent connections on both ends of the line will make it difficult to run a high-quality service, so we should probably continue our route west to Issaquah. There, we'll get connections to several local and regional bus routes, including some that can take riders to Link Light Rail. This includes Sound Transit Route 554, which will soon be running every 10 to 15 minutes, as well as King County Metro Routes 215, 218, and 269, which will connect to Link every 15 minutes or better. There are several places en route where we could stop to serve even more passengers. Between Issaquah and North Bend, we should serve a new freeway flyer stop at Preston, which is the headquarters of the Talking Rain Beverage Company and is currently unserved by transit. Next, we'll take the North Bend Way exit, stopping by the Snoqualmie Tribe and Casino before heading into North Bend. We'll make a few stops in downtown North Bend near the Park and Ride, Senior Center, and Outlet Mall. This will give us connections to local and regional services in the city, including the Snoqualmie Valley Shuttle, running northwards towards Duval and serving several towns in between. We'll then get back on the freeway and make another flyer stop at 468th Avenue just east of North Bend, which will provide service to a cluster of businesses and a middle school. After North Bend, we'll serve 2 more flyer stops near hiking and biking trailheads during the summer season. We'll then get off the freeway at Snoqualmie Pass to serve the ski resort, hotels, and housing nearby. This could be a major source of ridership for this route, especially in the winter when skiers from both sides of the pass want an affordable, car-free way to hit the slopes. It's also a popular hiking and biking destination in the summer. We'll then get back on the freeway until the town of Easton, where we'll make stops by a large state park and downtown. We'll then continue eastwards, making one flyer stop by a park and ride in Nelson before finally exiting the freeway in Cle Elum and ending our run at the Safeway. Safeway is a great place to end this route, as it's centrally located, close to the freeway, is a hub for the Kittitas County Connector bus, and can serve as a shopping destination for people coming from Easton or Snoqualmie Pass. Next up is the schedule. Our route takes about an hour and a half each way, including stops, meaning that a round trip takes about 4 hours when you include layover time for the driver and padding for traffic and weather delays. That's a long trip, and it means that running a higher frequency service would cost us a lot of money. However, this isn't too bad if we mostly want to time our trips to the Kittitas County Connector. That route runs every 2 to 3 hours, meaning that if we want to connect to every trip, we only need 2 buses on our 4-hour cycle time. This isn't a ton of resources for a route of this length, and is a feasible goal for this service at the start. We'll store 1 bus on each side of the pass, which gives us better flexibility for running service. The bus staying on the east side will run service between its base in Ellensburg and Cle Elum at the start and end of the day, which will supplement the Kittitas County Connector when it's not running. Overall, this gives us a schedule running every 2 hours with departures from 4:15 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. Weekend service would run from 7:45 a.m. to 6:45 p.m., also about every 2 hours. A full schedule and route map are linked below in the description. While later evening service would be great, it would probably need to be implemented at a later time when more resources are available. The schedule we have is a good start for most super commutes as well as people making journeys across the state. Next, we have to figure out what kind of buses to run on this route. One of the reasons that this service is so difficult is because the pass sees a lot of snow in the winter, so we need a bus that's good with snow. This isn't actually too hard to find, as cities like Whistler and Edmonton manage just fine in the snow with regular 40-foot buses. And that's a strong option for this route. We could even buy buses with suburban-style reclining seats to make the long rides a little more comfortable. However, the pass sees a lot of snow and some steeper grades, so a low-floor bus might not be the best idea for the harsh conditions. If we want a stronger option, we could use a Cutaway Bus, similar to what is used by smaller transit agencies and lower ridership routes in big cities. These usually come as high-floor buses and are great in the snow, being some of the most commonly used buses for ski resort parking shuttles and mountain-to-city buses. They also tend to be more powerful on hill, making them ideal for pass service. We also have to make accommodations for the event the pass closes and the bus gets stuck, which is a unique problem to this type of route. The key concern here is the bus driver. If they live on the east side of the pass and get stuck on the west side, we need to find somewhere for them to stay. Making arrangements with local hotels on both sides of the pass could help. Depending on where the bus would get stuck, we could also have it run local service until the pass reopens, such as between Cle Elum and Easton and between Issaquah and North Bend, just to keep as much service going as we can, as all types of riders will be relying on the service. Buses would also need to be equipped with large emergency kits in the event of a breakdown or the bus getting stuck inside the pass itself. The final step of this process is figuring out how we'll get the money to run this service and who will operate it. Being a 2-bus service, it won't be very expensive to run, but it's still not free. Using the standard assumption of 255 days running on a weekday schedule and 110 days on a weekend schedule each year, our route would see buses running in service for just over 11,000 hours. At a standard rate of $180 per service hours, this leads to an operating cost of just under $2 million per year. on par with a standard suburban neighborhood bus line. One of the best sources for this type of transit funding is Washington's Climate Commitment Act, which provides large amounts of funding to rural and regional transit lines. We could also reach out to the state's Department of Transportation, which manages the pass, and could use some highway funding for the bus. As for an operator, this route probably needs to be operated jointly by two agencies. We have two main options here. The first is Central Transit, which operates the Kittitas County Connector and other services in the Ellensburg area. While it's a small transit agency, with funding they should be able to run it, as they already have a large fleet of Cutaway buses and experience with regional service. The second is King County Metro, which runs local service in King County, including to North Bend. The most efficient move here is to have each of the two agencies run one bus. This reduces the chances of a driver being stuck on the wrong side of the pass if it closes, and allows us the best schedule for people on both sides of the pass. Each local agency could chip in a bit of funding as well, since both of their riders would benefit from the service. As time goes on, this cross-pass service could be expanded to be more convenient for riders. We could add more evening service and add a third bus for greater frequency. We could also combine the route with the Kittitas County Connector to provide a more seamless Issaquah to Ellensburg trip, which would be doable using 3 buses. We should also work on improving local connections on both sides of the pass. While North Bend, Cle Elum, and Ellensburg all have local transit, having stronger connections to surrounding towns and neighborhoods running more frequently and for more days of the week would allow us to maximize the usefulness and ridership of our cross-pass service. Overall, this service would be challenging to create, implement, and run. However, it's the biggest gap in the state's large rural transit network and would provide accessible, affordable service between two places that see a lot of travel. If you ask me, it's worth the struggle to serve commuters and all other types of riders, providing an essential link across the state. This video is a submission for Classy Wales One More Line contest.